moan about some blind bloke running him down in the foyer at the coffee counter.
Good
I'm
idea,
surprised you haven't got your tailor-made suit on, Damien.
It is tailor-made. All right.
So Damien, COVID's only just come around on the 23rd of March. Why auction now? You started this 4 years ago.
Yeah, we started building Auction Now quite a few years ago, 4 I think it was, as you rightly say, to really try and digitise the way that we conduct our auctions. And it wasn't necessarily designed in the first instance to not conduct an on-site auction or not conduct an in-room auction, but it was designed to run alongside and in conjunction with a live auction or an in-room auction. And you look at the pillars of what we do. We register bidders to come and bid for a property. They either bid in person or they were bidding over the telephone. The bidder registration was done on pen and paper. The storage of that registration was really clunky, a minute of folders, filing cabinets. And then the process of digitising the bids. So each time somebody bid, you'd have a penciler write them down next to the auctioneer. And then obviously the exchange of contracts would take place, and that exchange of contract took place on pen and paper. Then what you did with that contract is that you took that contract back to the agent's office, and then on Monday, they posted out the original and counterpart to the solicitors.
So one of the really big issues, Damien, is an auction in many ways is as good as the agent who deals with it. So what have you done about agent interface?
So what that whole process that we did, we wanted to digitise that whole process. So now buyers register as online bidders. Now buyers can place their bids on any device anywhere in the world in real time. And then if they're not able to be present at the auction, the live streaming component of Auction Now, that's just one component of the platform. But the buyer can tune in and watch via that live stream. And then obviously we have a digital exchange. So contracts are exchanged digitally. In terms of the agent interface, I guess from the agent's point of view, is that this whole process talks to their CRM system. So what we're all about is we're all about trying to make the process easier for the agent and make it a lot more streamlined. So from the agent's point of view, for this to be able to interact with their CRM system is critical. And if you think about it like long term, from an artificial intelligence point of view for the agent, to know that somebody had been to their auction, bid up to a certain price, and to be able to target market them for future listings that you might have will only enhance the experience and the saleability, I think, and the value add that the agent gives to their client.
Good point, yeah.
So what about training of agents? You've got anything in the background there?
So with Auction Now, what we have is a complete online training platform. So the moment somebody becomes a client in Auction Now, they pay a training and activation fee. That training and activation fee basically assists us to be able to onboard their whole real estate sales team. They can have group level administration. And then we have a complete video series for the full training for any agent or office that is being onboarded. In fact, on Auction Now, there are how-to videos, whether you're a buyer, whether you're an auctioneer, or whether you're an agent. But in addition to that, we have a complete web book which runs our full training platform for Auction Now.
So on top of that then, let's talk about there's 2 platforms, isn't there?
So the 2 options basically are that you can run a live online auction, and let's talk about pre-COVID. So you can run a live auction, and Auction Now works in conjunction with your live call. Now that we're not actually able to be in front of a crowd, it's all happening online. So the auctioneer still calls the auction. So we call this a live online auction. So the auctioneer still calls the auction. Mm-hmm. The bidders are remote, the vendor's remote. The agent can either be at the place where the auctioneer is, or they can also be remote. And the buyers essentially bid online. Their bids come through in real time. We accept or decline those bids exactly the same way as we accept or decline a bid if we were conducting an auction out the front of someone's house. And ultimately, you get to a point where you can either sell the property or you pass it in. And if you're going to sell the property, we announce the same way that we're selling, and you call it 3 times, knock it down and sell it. Now, if you don't sell it, you pass it in. The highest bidder has the same opportunity to negotiate, courtesy, negotiate at the reserve post-auction as they would otherwise have done if they were at the house. So that's what we call our live online auction. Our buy now auction is a timed event. We really see this having a huge impact on the way that private treaty sales are conducted, off-market transactions are conducted, the way that properties are sold prior to auction. And what the buy now auction is, it's a timed event. So you can essentially start that timed event at any point, and you can finish that timed event at any point. But the key part about this is that it is an auction, and it falls under the terms and conditions of an auction because you need to have an accredited auctioneer that oversees the timed event, the buy now auction. And the reason why we called it a buy now auction is because the purchaser can literally buy now. And what we mean by that is that if you have a timed event starting on Friday at 5 p.m. and it finishes on in 2 weeks' time, that auction is open for that period. Now, buyers can register as online bidders. The agents approve their registrations or decline their registrations. A buyer makes a bid. Now, if the bid is sufficient that the owner wants to accept that offer, you can bring that auction, that close date, you can bring that auction date forward to whatever date and time that you would like. That can be 5 o'clock that afternoon. And if you bring that auction time forward to 5 o'clock finishing that afternoon, you can then send out a notification to your other purchasers who have either A, inspected the property, or B, taken a contract, say, we've received an offer that's going to be accepted by 5 p.m. this afternoon, subject to any further offers being presented. And if you would like to make an offer, you can do so on the Auction Now platform. Here's the link on how to do it. Now, what that actually does is, I think it does a few things. I think the most important part about this is that it's absolutely transparent. So from a consumer's point of view, it's not like they're getting a phone call from the agent and they're saying, hey, we've got an offer, we can't tell you what it is, and we're going to sell it by 5 o'clock today unless you bring in a counter offer. What the agent in this instance is doing is saying, we have an offer, it's been presented on Auction Now, it's a buy now auction, and you can see what that offer is. If you'd like to make an offer, you can do so on the platform. The platform does a few things. Firstly, they need to be a pre-registered bidder. So you need to identify who that person is with the correct verification of identity. They need to submit things like give us their credit card details, which gives the owner another level of security as to them being a bona fide purchaser. And the real kicker in this is that once they actually are the successful purchaser and it's sold, we do an online digital exchange immediately, and that exchange takes place. And once that exchange takes place, literally within minutes, we can press one button on the Auction Now platform, and that sends an email to the vendor solicitor, to the buyer solicitor, to the buyers, to the agent, and to the auctioneer if you want it to, of a copy of that executed contract. So no more pen and paper registering bidders, no more phone calls, closed envelopes, give us your best offer by 5 o'clock. No more, let's get the contracts and post them and get the pigeon to come and take it to the solicitor's office. This is digitizing the way that we transact real estate. Now, I really truly believe that this will not have this will not change the way that we conduct our live auctions. This is going to revolutionize the way that we sell private treaty listings, off-market sales, expressions of interest. Or you think about it, if you're going to sell a property prior to auction, why would you not convert this to a buy now auction? And instead of ringing up the buyers and saying, hey, I know the auction's on Saturday, but we're going to sell prior, you can actually send a notification out to the buyers and say, we're selling, this property is being brought forward to a buy now auction, and it will close at Friday, 5 p.m. And this is the way that you're able to place your offer, essentially buying prior to the live auction, but you're actually buying in an auction environment.
We've actually described the Buy Now platform as a tender with mobility. But what is beautiful is you actually have an auctioneer who oversees it, and therefore all the powers of the auctioneer in terms of binding the parties is present. We're just going to quickly go through some nuts and bolts thing. So contract of sale, I'm about to go to an auction. Can I find a contract of sale on auction now?
You won't find the contract of sale as we know it right now as an attachment to the property page on auction now, but the contract is held in the back end of auction now. And the reason why that we've done that is that because we wanted the ability for the agent to be in control of when they uploaded the contract, and we wanted them to be in control of amendments that were being made to that contract, or if a total contract had been, a new contract had been issued. But that is something that is on the dev stack right now and will be a feature very soon.
Sorry, are the amendments to the contract being done in the back of auction now, or are they being done between solicitors?
They're being done between solicitors. So if a buyer requests amendments and the vendor solicitor agrees to those amendments, the buyer actually uploads those changes as an attachment to their registration. And then when they're approved, the agent can see those changes. So it's basically solicitor correspondence, and it needs to be solicitor correspondence. That's uploaded as a PDF into auction now. And when we do the exchange of contracts, that attachment becomes an addendum to the exchanged contract, and both the vendor and the buyer initial that attachment.
You've covered all the registration stuff really well earlier, but we get to the stage where we're in the auction room. We all know that one of the big problems with fair trading, right, when they brought in the change of laws back in September 2003, was the putting up of the paddle. How do you deal with numbers, Damein?
So any online bidder has a number allocated to them. It's an automated process. So their number is allocated to them as they place their bid. When the bid comes in from the online bidder, it pops up on our pencil bid screen with their number and their name. And we can accept, we can press a little button, it's a tick, we can tick and press yes, or we can cross and press no. And that's how we know that they are bidding with their paddle as such, their number, because we can identify each bid as it comes in.
So that also doubles almost as a bidder's record.
It does all of that. So as soon as the bid comes in and you accept it, it automatically goes onto the bidding sheet. And then we can press one button in auction now, which downloads a full report, which has the complete bidder's record, which satisfies fair trading's requirements. It has the agent's license, the auctioneer's license. It has the vendor's name as per the front page of the contract. It has a full list of all the registered bidders and their licenses and all their relevant authorities if necessary. It has a complete list of every bid that was placed at the auction, and it matches every bidder number with every bid that was placed. And then it has a graph of the bids, of the bidding sequence that transpired during the auction.
Now in auction now, how can you ensure that the bid you're getting is in real time and it's not overlaying another bid?
Yeah. So with us, the way that the bids come in on our pencil bid screen is that the bid comes in at the bottom, and if a bid comes in next, it comes in above it, etc. So we as the auctioneer know that the first bid, it's timestamped. So we know the exact time that the bid came in, and we can accept or decline the bids as we see fit. I think one of the biggest differences between Auction Now and a lot of the other platforms that we compete against is that Auction Now, the bidders place their bids in absolute real time. There is no time delay. So the video image that the consumer is watching on their mobile phone or their laptop, wherever they are in the world, is in absolute real time. So almost every other competitor of Auction Now has some level of latency. And I won't say that every, because I may be wrong, that others may not have latency. But as far as I'm aware, that most of, if not all, the other competitors to Auction Now do have some form of latency. And that is one reason why their video image quality might be slightly better than Auction Now's, is that the more latency you have, the better the image quality will be. If you have no latency, so no time delay between the time that the person places the bid and when it comes through to us as the auctioneer, or even more, what the buyer is viewing and on their mobile phone and what's actually happening during the auction. And the reason we know that is because we've tested and we know that if I move my hand to the right on your mobile phone where you're sitting right now, you'll see my hand move to the right. If you're in Melbourne and I'm in Sydney, and I move my hand to the right, you'll see me move my hand to the right. If you're using most of the other platforms, if I move my hand to the right and you're actually videoing, you place the bid, I've already knocked the property down by the time you've placed the bid on another platform. But on auction now, that won't happen.
And that's one of the things I'm really concerned about as a lawyer. But Damien, what do you do? Like you're in downtown Double Bay.
Yep.
You're running an auction now for somebody in Bathurst, for instance.
Yep.
You haven't yet reached the reserve.
Yep.
What do you do?
So for us, there's a really straightforward process. We've been well documented, basically us speaking to the agent before about what their reserve is and what the owner might consider selling at. Let's just say we're in a situation where your reserve's at $1 million and you're at 950 and you can't sell it. What we can do is that we firstly have been really encouraging to the buyers to place their bids. We have the ability to press mute on the live stream device, the mobile phone that's streaming. We can press mute, we can have a conversation with the agent. And it's really important from the consumer's experience that the auctioneer notifies them of what's about to happen. And that's the way that we handle it. So we press mute on the live stream, we have a conversation with the agent or with the vendor, and that's done via mobile telephone. And if it's not at a price that we're going to be selling at, we then hang up from the vendor, we press unmute on the live stream, we come back to the consumers, the bidders, and we let them know that the highest bidder will have the first opportunity to negotiate. It's not a right, it's a courtesy that we're going to give them to negotiate at the written reserve price. But the other thing that I do as an auctioneer is I make a few very clear statements. And the statements go something like this. If you are an online bidder and you would like to be included in the negotiation post-auction, you must bid. We will be negotiating with the highest bidder, and at the moment, that's bidder number 4. But if you would like to be included in that negotiation, or you'd like to have the first opportunity to negotiate, you need to bid. And the reason why I really emphasize that is that sometimes you might, Bailey, as you know, might have 5 registered bidders and only 2 of them are bidding. What's the point in talking to the other 3 bidders that haven't bid yet? But if you're one of those 2 bidders that have bid, I'm going to give you the courtesy of talking to you and giving you an opportunity to negotiate, subject to how the negotiations go with my highest bidder. I really want to make sure that as an auctioneer, I'm really putting the fear almost to the buyers who haven't bid yet, that if they don't bid, we're not going to include them in any negotiation post-sale. But if you bid, we'll have a chat with you after the auction, subject to how the negotiations go with our highest bidder. That's really encouraging the bid up and bid strong.
One of the big benefits I see, Damien, is that we've all had auctions over a period of time in life where no one's turned up or no one willing to bid's turned up. And to keep it under auction conditions, we have to open it.
Yeah.
So pretty much now you can open up Auction Now or any of the other platforms and go, bids are now open. And therefore the bids are now open, the auction's now open, we're now under auction conditions until 12 midnight tonight. So it's in that sort of way, it's actually provided a compliance evidence tool which we didn't have before. We're really relying on the statements of those involved.
Absolutely, and the beauty of Auction Now is that when you do video live stream the auction, that footage of the live stream is retained in Auction Now, and you can download that footage whenever you like at any point in time. It's kept forever. And from a compliance point of view, if there was ever an issue at an auction, you'd be able to download that footage and say, well, here's the footage. This is exactly what I said and what I did. And I've got a complete record of it. I think from a transparency point of view and from a compliance point of view, from Office of Fair Trading's point of view, I think that Office of Fair Trading love the way that we are conducting these auctions because it's safe, secure, it's transparent, it's a digital record of the whole process. You can't get any more transparent. It's all out in the open and it's there to be seen. If we have a vendor's bid, it's recorded as a vendor's bid, and that's in the bidder's record and it's there to be seen forever.
I bloody well hope so. Because if fair trading doesn't like it, I'm in all sorts of trouble. In terms of knocking down, like we've all seen you on live streaming or on Fox Business or on the block where often you have to focus fairly heavily when you get into the end of the auction, you're focusing on the underbidder.
Yeah.
How are you doing that on auction now, on the live stream?
Yeah, good question. We're focused on the iPad, Bailey. That's what we're focused on. We're focused on watching if a bid's going to come in. But we make our close very, very secure for the vendor. We make our close very prominent for the buyer. And by that, what I mean is we're there and we say things like, I'm just going to be absolutely clear. We are going to be selling this property on the third call. Don't wait for me to get to the third call because the property will be sold. And if your bid comes in after the fall of the hammer, I cannot accept your bid. So I want to be absolutely clear to the online bidders, if you are intending on bidding, bid right now. Don't leave it to the last minute because I cannot take a bid after the fall of the hammer. First, second, third, final time before we sell it. Is there any better offer above $850,000? Quickly, we're selling it, done.
What happens if there's a delay in the transmission?
We don't have a delay.
I was waiting for the contract to say we've dropped the hammer. We've got the contracts. We're obviously going to do it by DocuSign, I assume.
Yeah, do it by DocuSign. I think one of the challenges for some of the other platforms is that all a buyer has to do is video themselves placing the bid before the auctioneer, and they're watching the live stream, and the auctioneer hasn't put the hammer down yet, and the buyer places the bid, and they've got video evidence to say, no, I bid before the end, and here it is, I've got it on video to show that I pressed the button, I submitted my bid, and the auctioneer was still 3 seconds behind, he still hadn't put the hammer down yet. To me, that's just by saying, well, there's my video evidence to say that I did bid before the fall of the hammer, and you should have taken my bid. That's my concern for platforms that have delays.
Obviously, we're a bit tied up because finance is not easy to get. It's taking a long time, so people aren't getting themselves ready before auctions, and there are people who are fearing whether they're going to keep their jobs or anything. But in terms of the effectiveness, in terms of the speed of the auction, first of all, Damien, and what do you find the clearance rates are like?
Well, that's a really interesting point, Bailey. And I often speak to a lot of agents about saying, because vendors bring it up, clearance rates say 40%. Why would we go to auction? And to me, the answer is very simple. What auction is, it's a marketing method that we use to get the best result for the client in the shortest possible time frame. It's not just about having 4 or 5 bidders at your auction and achieving a huge price over the reserve. That's a positive byproduct of the auction process. The auction process is all about creating urgency around a deadline date. It's all about marketing a property without capping the price. So not actually capping the price that the owner wants, more about saying, tell us what you'd like to pay for the property. And the biggest difference between auction and every other method of sale, and my rebuttal to when a vendor or an agent says, yeah, but the clearance rate's 30% or 40% or 60%, I say, well, what's the private treaty clearance rate for properties that sell within 28 days? And answer me that question. Because really what we're talking about in an auction is properties that sell within 28 days, because the average auction campaign is 28 days. So how many private treaty sales sell within 28 days? And therefore, what's the clearance rate of the private treaty method of sale? And we know that private treaty takes double the amount of time that the auction process takes in broad terms. And some agents might be slightly different, but in broad terms, it's double. So there's a very strong argument to say that the private treaty clearance rate would be, anywhere in the vicinity of 5 to 10%. I'll make that number up, but anywhere in the vicinity of 5-10%, opposed to an auction clearance rate being at say 40% in the current market conditions.
We've been saying to everyone in our webinars, Corona is about opportunity, not about crisis. And a lot of stuff which we've started doing in our life won't, we will always run webinar training from now on, because it's such a nice thing that we're touching a person in Tweed Heads while talking to somebody in Albury and offering them the same services as a Sydney person gets. So that will stay forever. What's going to stay after Corona for auctions?
I think the big thing that we'll see for auctions is really this whole buy now platform really start to take effect in the private treaty, expression of interest, off-market transaction platforms. I really see platforms like Auction Now and digital bidder registration and electronic exchange of contracts electronic bidding authorities, electronic reserve letters. I see that stuff all changing. I think what won't change is the auctioneer's influence that they have over a buyer and being able to convince that buyer to bid 10,000 instead of 1,000, 50,000 instead of 25,000. Achieving a great result for an owner in front of a crowd under the heat of the moment, getting a buyer to be able to influence a buyer to be able to bid or not bid. I think that's one thing that is really here forever. And I say as an auctioneer that, you know, my influence that I have over somebody when they're in front of me in person and I'm at the auction and I'm creating urgency around the way that I call the auction by speaking faster, increasing the level of my voice, changing the tone of my voice. That's stuff that you just can't replicate. And that's stuff that's special to Damein Cooley or special to another auctioneer. And that's the value that they add. But the big changes will be digitizing really the way that we handle our businesses. This all starts, and this is what I love about, you know, Realtair, the company that we've merged Auction Now with, is that they're all about digitizing the way that the whole transaction takes place. From the way that we pitch our marketing to an owner, being a digital proposal, to them accepting that digital proposal, so it turns into an agency agreement, which is signed electronically, which turns into another platform they have called Flow, which manages the whole sales process from start to finish. And Auction Now is the exchange platform that basically runs the transactional piece for Realtair. And then, you know, there's loads of other plans for that company and other products that they're going to be bringing to market over the next 6 to 12 months. So I really love what Realtair is doing, and I really love that whole digitizing of the real estate space is being fast-tracked as a result of COVID-19.
So if I said that after COVID, what will remain is online registration?
Absolutely.
Cooperative live streaming with live auctions?
Yes.
And digital exchanges at auctions?
Yep.
Probably that's something that we will not go back from, will we?
I don't think so. Look, I think there'll be some agents who still like to put pen to paper, but I think that the agents who are progressive and the agents that start to realise that when you do things digitally, there is an electronic record of everything that you do, and it doesn't require more administration staff for entering information in, handling documents. Once it's in the electronic world, it's there forever. And the beauty of all of this is that it will talk to all of the CRM platforms, and it will all talk to each other. I think what our industry has been crying out for is one platform that they can use that talks to everything, that all syncs and energizes together. And look, for us, you know, the answer is very simple. For us, that's Realtair.
So, Damien, do you think we'll ever see On The Block doing it all by live stream?
Oh, look, who knows what's going to happen this year? But I think the theatre of an auction is great when you're in person. Can it be done online? Absolutely. It does that have a place in our market? No question about it. It's got an absolute place.
Damien, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy bloke.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Damien. All the best.